Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this press conference. We're going to be talking about food sovereignty issues as it relates to climate change. I'm sure you've enjoyed your meal since you came to COP29, and some of you are trying to imagine what it feels like as soon as you get back home to recall the memory of what is going on at the COP. Now, food is central to the issue of climate change because sometimes we hear people saying that agriculture contributes a whole lot of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, but we are hardly ever told what kind of agriculture is creating this problem. And today we have experts and young people who are also experts. We're going to be talking about these issues. We have on my immediate right is Bridget from AFSA, African Food Sovereignty Alliance. Then we have Million Bale, who is the director of the same alliance. Next to him is Odudu Abasi Asukwo, who is a manager of alliances with the Health of Mothers Foundation. And then Ukpon Obasi, who leads the Young Environmentalist Network. So we're going to have a whole range of voices on this issue. And I'm not going to we want to make the best of our time, so I'm going to turn it over to my brother, Million Bale, who leads the African Food Sovereignty Alliance, to tell us a bit more about what we've been hearing about My Food is African and other related issues. Million.
Thank you very much, Nimo. The Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa is the biggest social movement in Africa. We are farmers, fisher folks, pastoralists, indigenous people, youth, women, and also faith-based institutions as members of AFSA. I think one of our firm belief is that we have a rich diversity of food in Africa. This rich diversity of food is based on the rich diversity of seeds that we have in Africa. This rich diversity of seeds is also connected with the rich and diverse cultures that we have. A lot of people, from other continents want to portray Africa as if we don't have everything, but we have enough in terms of knowledge, in terms of the genetic material, in terms of also the practices. So the My Food is African campaign has mainly three purposes. One, through celebration, celebrating Africans' seed and food and knowledge and women. We want to revive African culture around food. And also this includes advocating for an African food policy which would consider African food as a central part of the future of Africa. So that's one element of the My Food is African campaign. The second element is we are constantly fighting against the forces that are trying to appropriate African food, African seed, and African culture in a big way. So we are fighting against genetically modifying our seeds. We are fighting against the ownership of our seeds through rules and regulations, and everything is based on the land that we build on. We plant our agriculture, so land ownership, land appropriation is one of the things that we fight in a number of things. So we fight the extraction or extractive environment. And we fight also the narrative around that, the narrative that considers Africa as always poor, and also the narrative which promotes the Green Revolution agenda. The third element of that is to look at the future. So what do we want? We are very, very much clear that what we want is agroecology, because agroecology considers the culture of our people. Agroecology also has a science element in it. We're not saying, not romanticizing what we have in terms of agricultural practices in our soil. There is a lot that we should do. So this science supports that. the science is not only science of soils and others, but other social and economic sciences are also included. So for the future of our youth, for the future of Africa, we are promoting agroecology, and that's what we are promoting here at the COP. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Million. And Bridget Mugambe is also of the African Food Sovereignty Alliance. Could you tell us a bit about the biosafety challenges in African food systems?
Thank you so much, Nemo. And I would like to start off by recognizing that today is the Agriculture Day at the COP29. And it's very critical for us, especially from Africa, as a majority of the continent is agriculture-based in terms of livelihoods, but also recognize that African food systems are facing unprecedented challenges from climate change. So of course we've seen droughts. In 2023, I think, was one of the hottest years. We see 2024 going the same way for Africa, and all this impacts on our food systems. So of course, to deal with all these challenges, there are so many proposals for solutions, and we see many of these coming in form of new technologies. So what this means for us is that as we get new technologies, we need to have biosafety protocols in place. We need the policies in place to ensure that biodiversity is not affected by the side effects of these new technologies. But what we are seeing is a blanket introduction of technologies in Africa, new biotechnologies specifically that are targeting modification of food, coming up with GMOs. Now we have a new gene technology, which is a new manipulation of genes within foods. We see all these technologies being introduced without consideration for proper biosafety protocols, both at national level, but we also know that at the international level, we still have gaps in the biosafety protocols. So this is a very key concern for us, and there are several countries that are really facing these huge challenges. For example, Kenya had a ban on GMOs in 2012. Now this has been lifted, and as soon as it's lifted, the applications and approvals for crops like GM maize without the proper risk assessments. So there are so many other examples that I could give in Africa, Nigeria, and a lot of others that are facing similar challenges. So the call for us, of course, here is also to see how the discussions within the UNFCCC also link with the CBD discussions, so that the few gains that we are attaining in the CBD in terms of biosafety protection are not undermined by the false solutions that are proposed within this climate space. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bridget. And indeed, we have a lot of challenges to our biosafety in Africa. It's as if there was never any call for the precautionary principle. We keep being told GMOs are safe, that's safe, that's safe. Just eat it, shut up and eat it. You are hungry people. And we know this is a big challenge indeed. So, and I'd like now to turn to Odudu Abasi. And, following up on what Bridget and Million spoke about our food is African. Are young people still returning their taste buds for natural indigenous foods, or is something going on there?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. It's been very interesting when I talk about food, because as a young person, I was brought up on very indigenous food, very healthy food, and now being forced. My generation is being forced to accept genetically modified foods and a lot of things that we can't sometimes even pronounce the names. So there's been an attack on our taste buds. I really feel like so many of our foods are going extinct because, we don't know about it and we are not even asked to eat it. Like, once you hear that you can't pronounce the name, it's in your language, you are told that it's bad for you. Oh, it's not, sorry, let let me say pasta. I mean, pasta is not my food, but I don't mean it's bad, but I'm just saying once it's not indigenous, it feels like it's not good for you. It feels like we should go for the sophisticated sounding names, the high sounding names that we don't know what actually they contain. So there's been an attack on the taste buds of young Africans. Africans are being fed something that is not natural to them, and that has really increased a lot of sicknesses. We now hear of strange diseases, young people having diabetes, things that were, young people are suffering some diseases that were not normal because of what we eat. So there is a need for us to recover our taste bud. There's a need for indigenous foods to be promoted, to be taught, to be allowed to thrive. Because when this, genetically modified foods are brought in, they kill the indigenous species, they kill the biodiversity, they don't allow any other thing to thrive. So the foods are being lost, and there is a need for us to stop it. There's a need for us to stand up against it and say, no, our food is African. That's what my mother ate. That's what my ancestors ate, and I want my children to eat that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Odudu. You said there's an attack on our taste buds. I feel it down my throat, really. So, we have to fight back to eat natural, indigenous foods. Now, Okono, when we talk about youths, young people, technologies and foods, do you think that any of this should be of concern to us, the things that we've heard so far?
All right, thank you for the question. My name is Upono. I work with the Young Environmentalist Network. And I'm a youth, but just a flashback a little bit to my younger days. And I know that in school, they used to teach us that agriculture was a mainstay, especially in the Nigerian economy. Agriculture was one of the major boosters of our economy. But we know how oil came in and how it affected our land, how it affected the water needed for this same agriculture, and even the air, which are all important elements. And right now, it's we know what's more deeper than that, the fact that it was not just about food and not just even about the economy. It was more about our spirituality, our communism, our culture, because, just thinking about it back home, my parents, they have a small farm in the backyard, and which, over as their child, was still very involved in it from a young age. Even when I go home now, when I'm hungry and I don't have money, it's just very simple. Just go home, knock on the gates, find ugu, we call it ugu leaves, vegetable, and we just take it cut and just, cook and make gari and enjoy the meal. But we can see right now there is, like I said, I work with young people and have a lot of discussions with them. And we can see that most of these things, they are not even aware of the terms. We was once a time went to the University of Benin, and we had interactions with random students, random young people. And it was very interesting to know that 90% of them don't even know what these concepts are. And it was funny enough that there was one person that said, okay, genetically engineered agriculture is the way forward. But during, while talking more with the person was like, after a while, the yield will reduce. But, as the person kept on talking, the person said, okay, maybe I didn't give the right answer. So I think it's just surprising to see that young people, we don't really know much about these things that are in front of us. And some days back, we spoke about data, how, these things are used to distract us, advertisements, get this, get that. And all these things distract us from what is really important to us and what we should value as young people. So, and also just to mention that sometimes this is not to attack the older generation, but it's just surprising to see that this, most of our parents, our elderly ones, they got to see the way things were. How, my dad sometimes will say he's a village man, and sometimes I will say I'm a city boy. And, the references to the way he lived, I cannot relate. The things he saw, and I'm also got kids, sometimes to engage with community people. And when you go to here as well, I went to my dad one time he took me to the oil wells, and you can see that those places were abandoned. But still, if you look around that area, nothing is growing there. Everything you see there is not green, and you're just like, wow. So we have those issues, and also we have the issues of them trying to sell us false solutions. They're saying that genetically engineered agriculture is smart, is the way forward, instead of knowing that we used to have working systems before, and we have indigenous knowledge backed by science, which we should really be pushing forward.
Thank you so much for laying out those concerns and the things that our young people are losing now. I'm going to, before we open up the floor for questions, today, as Bridget reminded us, is the Agriculture Day at COP29. Are there things we should tell the delegates, the policymakers, about the significance of today, that is not just a label? The same question for all of you, starting from Million.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Today is Agriculture Day at COP29. Is there anything you would like the policymakers, the delegates to take into consideration, or is it just another label for today?
No, I think as AFSA, based on the almost over a decade of research that we did, and also the research that others did, we are pushing for agroecology to be included in agricultural policies. Thank you very much.
Bridget?
Yeah, I think Million has delivered the message that AFSA is pushing for the COP. But I think very important for us is to recognize that agriculture is really context specific. So what I would call our negotiators to listen to is that food systems and agriculture issues should be treated in the context that they fall in. Africa has its own unique context. So not every new technology, every new narrative will apply to as a solution to African agriculture challenges.
Not to seem like we are just beating the same drum, but yes, we know that agroecology is a climate action. It's a real solution. It's not the genetically modified agriculture or smart agriculture or nature-based agriculture. You know, whatever they try, however they try to coin the words, what we know is that agroecology works, is a system that is tested and trusted. It has a lot of, it is what the indigenous people have been using to feed 70% of the world. We know that it's not all these genetically modified foods that are feeding the world. It's indigenous farmers that are feeding 70% of the world, and they have been using agroecology, and that should be promoted as a real climate action.
Yeah, just to tell them to listen to the youth. The youth voice is very important, and we have a lot of ideologies and very important things to say. We don't have jobs, our livelihood is lost, but we know that through agriculture, we are not just tackling these issues, but we're tackling issues even beyond that.
Sometimes when we hear the term climate smart agriculture, our minds always go to genetically engineered crops that can withstand droughts, that can withstand floods. We forget that indigenous varieties have over the years evolved to do exactly that. Well, now, any questions from the, I see your hand, yes, and I see your hand too. I see two hands, yes, start from the back.
Roland Gam from Rosa Luxemburg. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack at his press conference earlier spoke about gene editing and GMOs, and also brought in the Malthusian argument that we are close to reaching 10 billion people. Africa, and especially Eastern and Southern Africa, has suffered major droughts over the last couple of years. And this is one of the arguments that they are advancing, because a lot of food aid was given to these parts of the continent. What are your arguments to counter that if we insist on agroecology? Thank you.
All right, we'll take the second questions, and then the panelists will give short answers to both. Right here on the front row, yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I am Dunya El Khouri. I am founder and president of Women Association of Dar al-Ahmar in Lebanon, and a member of the Weekend Initiative of the FAO, which is the initiative for communities for the South countries. And my question is about women's right to the land. What about the women's right to the land? Because when we are speaking about agriculture, when we are speaking about food, we need the land. And we need that women get the right to the land, because I know that in many countries they don't have this right. And the 3 conventions, I have been part of the 3 conventions meeting in Berlin last year, because the 3 conventions of the UN, UNCCD, and the UNFCCC, and the biodiversity, all of them are speaking about women's right to the land and focusing about what is the situation in all the countries. And especially in Africa, it is very important that women get the right to the land, because it is a very important sector to be conserving the life, her life and the life of her kids and the family. So I think that is an important issue to think about. And about about the food, women has a big part to conserve the traditional food. And this is my book about the local food in Lebanon. And we are, as NGO, working to conserve this traditional food. It's a big role to the NGOs and to the women to conserve the food and to learn to their kids to eat the local food. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your comment and the embedded question in it. And I'll just give the panelists the space to respond to those 2 questions: the population issue, GMOs, and then the women's access to land.
I am not personally surprised that US or USA are pushing that narrative. I'm not surprised, because most of the companies who benefit if Africa goes to that direction are in the US. So it's a marketing gimmick, you know. Otherwise, one of the countries which are practicing GMOs, I think the biggest country in Africa is South Africa. Are South Africans food secure? Are they healthy? Are they eating healthy and nutritious food? It's a very important question. We know the answer. Yeah? The high level of NCDs, obesity, and all that, we know. And it's very sad to say that, you know, women are feeling the brunt of this problem. So I'm not surprised. In most of the time, the GMOs produced in the US are produced for fuel and for feeding animals. It's not for people. So we know. So that's my response. It's not an answer for us, and we have diverse crops, you know, diverse crops for us, diverse seeds for us, who are already tested for thousands of years. So we can enhance those through research. You know, we are not rejecting research. We are not rejecting, you know, breeding and whatever. But we are saying farmers have knowledge, and there is knowledge in this side, and let's work together. That's what I think the woman right is. I think it's an answer. Yes, they need the right.
Thank you so much. Does any other person on the panel want to respond very briefly?
Well, I mean, just to not to counter, just to echo what Million just said about the push for GMOs in Africa. As I already said, 70% of the world is being fed by indigenous farmers. It's not being fed by GMOs, not being fed by those things grown in the lab. It's being fed by our real food. So where is this? Why do we need these GMOs if the world is already being fed? What we need is improved food systems, better storage facilities. I mean, things that will really help the indigenous farmers and not more and not GMOs. And for the food and for the land rights, yes, that is something that should really be pushed, because women are the landowners. We are the ones that hold the land. So women's rights to land needs to be a focus topic on any issue of food, of any issue of agriculture, of any issue of economy. Women's access to land should be a focus topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe we've got a lot of food for thought and hopefully food for the belly also. But I would just like to also affirm that GMOs have not solved the hunger problem in the world. They've not. Not at all. They're not going to solve it. It's not aimed for that. It's for business, for control, for colonialism, and for other purposes. If we have better social services, the population of the world would not grow the way it's growing. Less violence in the world, more peaceful, more love, population will come down. I don't think we should be scared about people. A lot of people are afraid of poor people. Let's stop the poverty. Let's stop the debt. And thank you so much for coming for the population. Please give the panelists a big hand.
Sorry, can you have a picture?
Elma, çıktı Afrika.